Life is hard, but we got to learn how to live life. And to me, like, living life soberly is way more powerful than living life intoxicated. My name is Anna. I'm from Oceanside, California. So my life growing up was I have immigrant parents. They came from Mexico on the search of their kids, going to school, getting educated, a change of life. They didn't want us to live the life that they lived. Growing up my parents used to migrate a lot. They used to work, in the fields. They used to pick fruit, go from one place, city to another. And a lot of times when I was little, I would stay with my grandma and my grandpa. So my parents were mostly working, and it would be me and my brother. Ultimately, my grandparents, they were good. It was a stable environment. I did miss my parents a lot, My father ended up wanting a better life for us, so he decided to move up north. He wanted to move to Fresno. We were on our way to Fresno. I was about 5 years old. My brother was about 10. So on our way to Fresno, he decided to stop by my aunt's house in Oceanside. And then she pretty much told him, hey, if I find you a job, are you willing to live in Oceanside? Would you want to live here, raise your kids here? The schools in Oceanside are great, So she got him a job and we stayed here. So through our upbringing, my dad used to drink a lot. And when he would drink, he would get violent. Like if he didn't get his way, because he was very machista. So he would like to control the situation. If he felt that he had no control, he would just resort to, disciplining his way. I grew up in an abusive environment. I didn't want to accept it at the time because, he was my father. I loved him. And growing up, it was hard because it was looked at as okay. It's okay for you to get disciplined the way you did, And finally, my dad used to hit my mom. So I saw a lot of that when we were little. My parents ended up my brother was the oldest, then it was me, and then my 2 younger sisters. Once I turned 15, sorry.
Don't be sorry. Don't be sorry at all. You're doing great.
So once I turned 15, I wanted to put a stop on all that. To make a long story short, I stood up to my dad. One time he came home with my sister, trying to chase her around, and I told him, no, you're not gonna hit her. You're gonna just, leave my mom alone, leave my sister alone. You're not gonna hit her. I need you to get away from my mom, get away, You're drunk, go over there, calm down, go outside, get some air. So I stood up to him, and then the way he reacted to me, I had lost all respect to him. He didn't hit me or anything, but I ended up calling the cops on him that day. So it was a cycle of, I felt like I needed to step up for my family, for my sisters, for my mom. My brother never really did, and I could never understand why, but I did. My goals and aspirations were, as soon as I graduated high school, I was going to join the military. I wanted to get away from everyone. I wanted to, get my GI Bill. I wanted to pretty much become an FBI agent, law enforcement. That's where I wanted to be. My life, like I said, I did join the Air Force. So I went through boot camp, and after boot camp, once I got my duty station, I just wanted to come back home. So I fell into depression. I ended up getting general discharge. So I went through the chain of command, and I came back home. I was 19 years old when I did this. Coming back home, I enrolled in school. I was doing great, working 2 jobs, trying to go to Maricosta. And then I fell in love. that was the turning point. I fell in love with this guy. We were supposed to, live a happy life together. 3 years into our relationship, he ended up cheating on me. That was my turning point. The lifestyle that my brother had was more of a party scenario. So he was into drugs. He was into doing, meth and drinking. My brother, at the same time, he went through a heartbreak. So we both became best friends. We started partying with all my friends. We would go out, drink, experiment with meth. Everybody was partying, having fun. I was pretty much trying to numb what I didn't want to feel. I met my children's father at that time. And 6 months into our relationship, I ended up getting pregnant. When I was pregnant, I decided to stop everything that I was doing. I stopped smoking, I stopped drinking, and then the family part of me, like how I always wanted to have a family of my own. I was motivated to do better. And in the thought process, I was thinking that my baby's father would change. I was thinking that we were both misunderstood with love. From his upbringing and how his mom was a certain way towards him, how his mom chose, a guy instead of her own kids. It hurt him. And then the hurt that I had, I thought I could change him. Like I thought the love was going to make us better. And about 3 years after us having the baby, he relapsed. In his relapse, I wanted him to do better. Him being under the influence, he became a total different person. He was very abusive verbally. He was never physical, but it was mostly verbal abuse. Eventually, I ended up falling back to drinking. And then, my kid, he was about 5 years old. I ended up falling into a deep alcohol, drug addiction again. My baby's father was a heroin addict. So for that, it's a whole different level type of high, right? So once I would start drinking and, doing meth, it would make me just forget about my feelings again. And I guess to me in those eyes, it was okay to get treated like crap because, he was still with me. I would always try to stay sober again, and I would want to do it for my son. So through the process of trying to stay sober, being with someone who was constantly relapsing, the turning point, I lost control. Me and my baby's father, we moved out together, but I was in charge of paying all the bills because all his money would go to his drugs. And so basically, I got tired of paying the bills. What I was thinking of doing at that time was leave him. I was gonna leave him and raise my son, and we were gonna be good, me and my son. But what happened in the process of doing that is I fell back into my depression. Eventually, I ended up giving up and doing what he did, which is heroin. I had given up on my life. I was very suicidal. I never tried to attempt towards my life, but I didn't like the person that I was. Once I started doing heroin, it was over. It was done. I was losing my mind. My parents had disowned me. They had my son. They were taking care of my baby. I'd try to go home and see him. My dad would literally physically remove me from being there. My parents hated me. My sisters wouldn't talk to me. The only person that would ever try to be there for me was my brother. So my brother is no longer with us. He passed away in 2021. Yeah. My son did recognize what I was going through. He was the sweetest kid ever. He was really smart. He understood everything, and all he wanted was me to be okay. So going through all this that I was going through, I ended up crossing drugs in the border. I got arrested. But once I got arrested, they let me go home. They took me in and they said, we're gonna come back and get you, so please, stay put, don't go nowhere. What took me to get to that point was that my kid's father, I didn't want him to leave. I wanted him to stay with me, and so I wanted to have at least what he wanted. I wanted him to have his heroin. So because of the love that I had for him, I ended up doing what I did. I crossed across the border. Once we got through the border, he took control of it, So once I got caught in the border, the DEA guy, I remember him clearly. He was really nice. He said, "You're not the person we want. We're trying to catch somebody else, so we're just gonna let you go. But once we're gonna go back and find you because you did break the law, and so we do have to go back to get you. So please don't go nowhere. Just stay where you're at. We'll come get you." So when they came back to get me 8 months later, I went to jail. They put me in the federal prison, which, I didn't know how much time I was gonna get. I kept hearing that I was gonna get anywhere from 2 to 5 years. So once I was in there, I did a lot of deep internal thinking. Honestly, going to jail, I feel, saved my life, because right before that, I was seeing the Grim Reaper everywhere. I was going crazy. I had the Bible with me, praying at every corner, and I'm thinking that's probably why my dad wouldn't let me see my son, because he said, "Oh, my daughter's out of her mind." The turning point of being incarcerated for me was the first day that my son and my parents went to visit me in jail. My first visitation with them was about 3 months in. At first, my father wanted nothing to do with me. He didn't want to go visit me or talk to me. He was really mad at me. But my mom would pressure him. My mom would tell him, "I want to go see my daughter." And then my son, when he went to go see me, he told me that he was happy that I was in jail, because at least he knew where I was. So for him to go visit me and for all this to happen, I wanted to hold on to, I wanted to change things. I didn't want to make him suffer. My parents were getting old. I did not want to make them suffer as well. So that was my turning point. Coming back home to my family that I had caused so much pain to, and having them open their arms to me and say motivating things, especially my brother, because my brother had been previously incarcerated himself, so he knew how I was feeling. I had a lot of support from him. My parents, it's like if I went away to something good, coming home and feeling the love that I felt from my parents and my son made me very happy. Very, very happy. Since the day my son was born, he was always super attached to me. So reconnecting with him, 9 years old, coming out of jail, our bond from there was so great. It was from then, till now, I dedicated myself to giving him the life that I should have given him from day one. At that point, I was sober, I was getting my life back. I was getting more control. I had a job, I was making money, and I was able to save up enough money to get my car. Once I got my car, I was able to take my son everywhere. We would go to Disneyland, Knott's Berry Farm. I was forever trying to make up for the time that I was away. So for me, the biggest thing that helps me through the dark times is working out, going outside, going on a walk, a jog, going to the gym. Any physical exercise helps my mental health. It helps me get better, feel stronger, less stress. So I'm able to think more clearly. I've been sober for 8 years. 8 years. Reason why I get all emotional now. My children's father was still in the picture for the longest because all I ever wanted was for him to be sober, because when he's sober, he's a whole different person. When he's under the influence, he's a terrible, terrible person, you know. So me in my sober state of mind thinking, I don't want to keep repeating the cycle of him relapsing, then I relapse, then my kids suffer, then my parents suffer. I decided, you know, once my brother passed away, I decided to leave him. And till this day, I feel like it's been the best decision that I could do. He's sober now, but I'm on a journey of, you know, loving myself, being in love with myself. What do I need to be better? How can I be better? And I don't see him in my future. I hold on to the memories with my brother that I had. And honestly, like, once he passed away, the baby was born the same year, I enrolled in school. So I ended up joining the Maricosta Transition, which is it's a program for formerly incarcerated, you know, students to be able to get an education instead of being incarcerated. So I did a really good year, and then I ended up, you know, needing money. You can't really just go to school without working. So there, you know, I met Nora, which is how I got referred to FutureStitch, which then I talked to Sarah. And Sarah is the most loving, caring, welcoming person ever. So once I met Sarah, working here since day one, it was, you know, it's been awesome, very rewarding. She's made me feel special every single time since day one. And working with the people that I work with, we all have, like, you know, different stories, different backgrounds, but I've always believed that people can change. People can change with the right guidance, with the right, you know, nurturing, with the right love, which goes back to why I love working here. We do classes, we do yoga, we do meditation. And to me, all these things are important because, you know, I'm 40 years old and I have anxiety and depression that I go through. The support that the company FutureStitch offers is the best thing for me, where I'm at right now. Coming into work, you know, in production with my coworkers, if I can make anyone's day better, trust me that I will try. Trust me that I will try to find the words to say to make, you know, a bad situation and flip it and make it a positive one. And I've heard a lot of great feedback. People love me. My coworkers love me here. And I want to make a difference. And I know that, you know, it's hard to change. But once you have that in your head to change, you just have to keep positive and take the help, you know, do therapy sessions, create a whole different positive lifestyle. Change a bad habit for a good habit. You know, instead of smoking a cigarette, go on a walk for 12 minutes. It all helps. My goals from here are to continue my education and to be at FutureStitch. I want to be able to help people that have had tough situations in their lives. I want to be able to make a difference, you know, and create a loving environment, a welcoming for people struggling with mental health, you know, drug abuse, alcoholism. If I can do it, you know, you can do it. The things that we go through in our past can only make us stronger. We're still, you know, to me, I think we're still alive. We're still able to make a change. We're still able to, you know, turn our life around. So with the outcome of, you know, being in the cycle of addiction and alcoholism, you know, drugs, there's only two outcomes, which would be, you know, 6 feet under or incarcerated, you know. And we're the narrators of our story, and we want to how do we want our story to end? Honestly, the sky is the limit, you know, where I'm at now. Because now I'm thinking, like, what's next on my list of goals, you know? My biggest thing is being able to go through all the things that I've been through and still maintain my sobriety. Like, I'm achieving something great. So the possibilities to me are endless.